Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is StepsBasic and welcome back to my community show. So, as promised, we have a lighter hearted episode today. I hope. Anyway, today's topic in the community is community. Or camaraderie, more specifically. Now, my generation saw the largest boom in video gaming. It's seen it go from blah to pa. It's pretty neat. I'm pretty smart. Anyway, and, you know, the boom and the greater acceptance that came with it. However, when I was a kid, it was still very much something that only geeks did. Not nerds, but that's a discussion for another time. People never getting the right nerds, geeks, and mixing. Sorry. Anyway, this was before social media. This was before a lot of the mainstream communities were coming around, and, you know, all the things that we can see now and what we can be a part of today. So if you lived in a small town with only a niche group of friends, you had to hope that they enjoyed video games as much as you did, or at least to some degree. As such, I did have a few, by the way. You know, just putting that out there. Anyway, as such, gaming was still relegated to the basements of our parents, done by people who had no lives and hadn't seen the light of day in years. It was taboo, sort of, to go home and play a new video game, and Dungeons and Dragons. Of course, Dungeons and Dragons hasn't really lost that stigma. So there wasn't much of a community to speak of, at least not where I came from, anyway. I can immediately only name off 3 of my friends from way back then who loved video games as much as I did. And that doesn't even count my brother. Sure, even back then, you know, we had forums online and MUDs we could play to meet others, but you were the outcasts in your own town, in your own community, at home, if you played video games with any frequency. Of course, I should point out that while I am speaking generally, I understand that this does not apply to everyone in every walk of life or town. Disclaimer out of the way. This, coupled with my writing, caused me to look for lessons in companionship and community. Psychology is a hobby of mine, but again, that's a topic for another time. Anyway, I learned a lot about socializing from video games and, you know, movies and such, but mostly video games, and about how to function in society and how to get along in the world. No, that does not mean I took a giant sword with me to go fight dragons. That's just ridiculous. And people look at you funny. What I mean is, well, take, for example, the original Zelda for the regular Nintendo, years and years ago, the NES. Here, you are given a little 8-bit character with no idea what his drive is or what you're doing. This was before the general idea of a story-driven video game was even a big thing. But anyway, you are a tiny person in this gigantic world with no real aim or purpose, but you know something is wrong and that you should do something about it. Pretty interesting, huh? Of course, if you read the book that came with the game, you know, you would know all about Impa and whatnot, but at that point I was a bit too young to, want to read it. But that was a good lesson, you know. There is more to this world than meets the eye, and you shouldn't just stand by idly while something bad happens. Okay, so next, like the original Dragon Warrior. That one came out, and you were faced with the same problem in this game, except that there was a bit more of a story to it. And, you know, there was more elements involved. Now you had a problem, and you knew what you had to do about it. Okay, so you trudged through the game, fighting golems and wyverns, and shut up, boom. Finally make it to the end and enter the throne room, and you meet the Dragon King, and when you talk to him, he offers you a chance to rest. Best lesson to learn from this video game is don't accept gifts from dragons or despots or villains. If you take them up on the offer, it's game over, man. Game over. Rest in peace, Bill Paxton. So, we go from no story to a general aim, and now we go to the calling. Yes, for this, we are going back to Final Fantasy, but there are a slew of other games that will teach you about a calling. Final Fantasy 1, again, starts with no explanation. Your game opens on a field, and you're standing there in front of a town and a castle. No other explanation, just... The world moves on, and you are shown that this tiny, innocuous group of warriors with all 4-letter names that you created are in fact the Warriors of Light, and are expected to find and bring light to the elemental crystals. If you don't work hard in this game, you literally cannot win. You get to the end, you fight Chaos, he will stomp you. I thought I was pretty awesome the first time I made it to Chaos. He wiped me out because I did not work nearly hard enough to get that. And all of my work was just for naught because I wasn't prepared. You know. Anyway, these are 3 great lessons for life, but I started talking about camaraderie, didn't I? Darn rambling. Anyway, the friends you made who played video games like you tended to be the best of friends. The strongest friendships, after all, come from shared interests, but stronger ones come from shared interests in ostracized elements. Does that make sense? You know, if you both don't really fit in with society, then you tend to band together a bit stronger for fear of losing that one relationship. Anyway, as the years went on and video games became more accepted, more mainstream, the community grew with it. I still remember the first time I had a meaningful conversation about video games, specifically Final Fantasy VIII at the time, with a guy who I always saw as the jock. You know, I will admit, though, it did start with me asking incredulously, "You play video games?" You know, I missed the point when others had joined my community. You know, we all kind of had to grow with it. Because I welcomed the change, don't get me wrong. Even if it did surprise me, I welcomed it. Because that meant more acceptance, more friends, more people with shared interests. And, you know, nowadays, we have people from all walks of life in the community, and there have been a good deal of growing pains. You know, even now, there are clear lines drawn in the sand separating gamers in general. You know, you have your RPG players, you have your first-person shooters, you have your sports nuts. You know, all gamers, even the mobile game players. You know, the filthy casuals. You know, we're all gamers, and you know, we're built on a foundation of geeks in the dark. You know, we have learned lessons in love and life through unconventional means. You know, I mean, heck, my drive to join the military came from stuff I learned in video games. You know, the need, the want to be bigger, to be better, to be meaningful. And you know, of course, as with any lesson, these were tempered by reality, as they all should be. Reality tempers the lessons, because reality changes, but the lessons may not always change. I.e., treat everyone with respect. Maybe tempered by the fact that you don't get treated with respect. So, you know. I guess my takeaway from these lengthy ramblings is that we should love each other and we should respect each other, but remember that while we are in the same community, we cannot just accept everything said by the community. Like I always say, you're free to speak, but you're not free from debate. You can say what you want, and anyone can argue against it. Anyway, end the ramble. If you like this video, go and poke that like button for me. If you feel the need to, go and comment down below. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. You know, camaraderie, community, make it specific to video games, make it whatever. I don't really care. But, you know, like I said, psychology, fun, hobby, yay. You know, I'll get back to you when I can, if I can, how I can, you know, all that stuff. And, yeah, tune in next time when we're going to go back into controversy. As much as I loathe discussing controversy, another big one has come up, specifically around the Mass Effect Andromeda game and the series and BioWare itself. And I will be giving my 2 cents worth in on it. So, warning. Anyway, until then, night.